Welcome to the Plant-Based Nutrition Masterclass. In this short time we have together, you are going to learn that plant-based nutrition is the most effective way to feel better now and to live longer later. But what is nutrition? If you were to look it up in the dictionary, you would find this answer, that it is the process of finding, obtaining, and providing the food necessary for health and growth. But the problem is that most individuals have a short-term perspective on nutrition. They just look at it as eating certain foods for optimal weight, performance, and energy. And they assume that automatically it will improve your long-term health. But that is not the case. You have to actively choose certain foods that prevent disease and avoid foods that promote disease. And why? Well, when you think of someone who is eating really well and who is super healthy, sometimes we think of people who are really fit and have lots of muscles like bodybuilders. But the truth is that bodybuilders actually only have an average lifespan of just 47 years old. And so what you're doing in the short term does not always translate to long-term health. In fact, 7 out of the top 10 causes of death in America could be prevented with dietary changes. Heart disease, cancer, and stroke, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, all of these are affected by the foods we choose to eat every single day. And I came to that realization when I had one of those life-changing moments that I don't wish upon anyone else. It happened on October 1st, 2019, when I rushed into the ER just to see my 37-year-old husband slumped over in a wheelchair, looking like he had aged 50 years. And I knew in that moment, when I looked at him, that he was having a stroke. And it brought back terrible memories of when I got that phone call from my mom that told me that my dad was dead because he had suffered his one and only heart attack when he was just 55 years old. At the time, I didn't know what to do because when you're healthy, you have so many wishes, you have so many desires, but when you're sick, you only have one. The stroke that my husband had affected his vision for 5 months. And for those 5 months, we only had one wish, and that was to get his vision back and do everything that we could possible. But a healthy person doesn't necessarily think about those long-term consequences. When we were in the hospital, they ran a ton of tests to figure out why my seemingly healthy 37-year-old husband had suffered a stroke. And everything came back negative. There was no hole in the heart, no heart arrhythmia, no genetic disease, nothing. No, there was no reason why this should have happened. So we left the hospital with a piece of paper that said, from now on, he needs to avoid trans fats, saturated fats, cholesterol, and to eat more fiber and avoid alcohol. And that this was a heart healthy diet and that he needed to do this in order to avoid any future episodes. Now, at the time when my husband had a stroke, I was willing to do anything possible to prevent this from happening again. When my dad had his heart attack, I had wished and I had prayed at the time that he had just been given an extra chance, a second chance to be able to make dietary changes. But he didn't. It was his one and only heart attack. And since my husband was given that second chance, we decided to do the research to find out what foods contribute to chronic disease. And I found that meat and dairy is a natural source of trans fat and cholesterol. There are artificial trans fats found in processed foods, but since the ban in 2018, those have gone down significantly. And so meat is one of our major sources. Dairy is also a primary source of saturated fat. In fact, it is the number one source of saturated fat in the American diet. So cheese is the number one source of saturated fat. Added fats and sugar are devoid of nutrients like fiber, and refined grains are also devoid of nutrients like fiber. And so at the time when we were given this direction, I didn't realize that fiber is only found in plants. That, those fiber one bars, the fiber from the fiber one bars were actually from plants. It's the only source. You can't get fiber in meat. You can't get fiber in dairy. And so it's fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And a lot of refined products are devoid of this fiber as well. And so I decided to start shifting my view on nutrition. In order to have that short-term view and the long-term view, it was time for us to start counting plants instead of calories or macros. Does this make sense? You deserve more than just counting calories or macros. We cheapen our relationship with food when we see food solely as a number. Focusing on high quality foods that are nutrient rich over highly processed foods will help prevent long-term chronic disease, right? It will help support our long-term health. And so plants are awesome, right? And to me, it shifted everything when I saw food as food and not as a number. And I tried to bring in so many more whole plant foods into, my diet as well as my family's. So how do we know? How do we know that eating plant-based is really the best type of eating for long-term health? And there was a book called The Blue Zones written by Dan Buehler. And in that book, he examined the entire world and looked to find which pockets of area in the world have individuals who live to be 100 years old and older. And he found these different areas that have the most centenarians. And they all shared a lot of things in common. They all were socially active and had a great network. They all would walk or garden or were just more active in their lives. They would take naps. They weren't as stressed, and they all consume plant-based diets. And not just that their primary source of protein was from plants and from beans instead of animal products. They weren't all specifically vegan or vegetarian, but they ate meat sparingly, and they ate, dairy products sparingly. They still had them, but they shifted their focus. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible that they all had this same thing in common? And I went even deeper. It's like, okay, what about all the other diets in our society? All these fad diets that claim to help you lose weight. I think all of them work in some way, at least on the short term. They all do have benefits. That's why there's a $7.2 billion weight loss industry. But what is it, instead of looking at what they all are different or how they're all different, what do they all have in common? And I found that with all of these diets, they all share one thing in common, all of them. And that is that they encourage the consumption of more vegetables, that they encourage us to eat more vegetables. And so if we solely focused on that, then we would have, a better understanding of where to go. We would have a solid foundation. Because the truth is that only 1 in 10 adults actually eat enough fruits and vegetables daily. And it can help reduce the risk of many of the leading causes of death and illness. And we're not eating enough. Only 1 in 10. That's not a lot, right? That's not a lot. And so, the truth is only 1 in 10 are eating 5 fruits and vegetables. But if we ate 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables daily, that's where we see the biggest change. That's where there was a big meta-analysis that showed that if all of us consumed 7.8 million, if all of us consumed 8 to 10 fruits and vegetables, then 7.8 million deaths worldwide would be saved. That's where the biggest change comes. And especially if most of those are from veggies. This is where real change happens. This is where our foundation should be. This is how to see past dietary trends. This is how to see past fads, is to understand that our foundation should be vegetables. Everyone agrees. And those who live the longest are eating this way. And they also receive a lot of short-term benefits. And in order to understand those short-term benefits, we want to talk a little bit about the gut. And why it's important to count plants. So the biggest study ever done on the gut as of today is called the American Gut Project. And they found that no matter what individuals ate, if they ate dairy or meat or anything else, that those who consumed the most plants, regardless of everything else they ate, that if they ate at least 30 different plants, and plants meaning, fruits, vegetables, and nuts, seeds, legumes, and whole grains, that if they consumed the most plants, that they had the healthiest microbiome. Why do we care about our microbiome? Why is it such a hot topic right now? Well, because what's good for your gut is also good for you. The gut health studies are trending exponentially right now because just about 16 years ago, we didn't have the technology to really understand the gut. It was like 16 years ago was like looking at the stars 300 years ago. We just could only look with our naked eye for the most part, and we didn't really understand how many stars are out there, the galaxies that are beyond what we could see visually. And with technology, we've been able to do the same thing with our gut microbiome. We've been able to see all these microbes and how they interact and play with our health, our short-term and our long-term health. And that our poop can tell a lot about our health. Isn't that a doozy? So every single thing that you put into your mouth and swallow will pass through 20 to 25 feet of intestine and come out in contact with your gut microbiome. Have you ever thought about that before? And that every dietary choice that you make empowers a specific group of microbes. When the good microbes eat fiber, that's their favorite food. Those microbes that you want, those really healthy ones, when they eat fiber, they're super excited and they produce a byproduct called short chain fatty acids. And short chain fatty acids are incredible because they go throughout your entire body and they help prevent disease. Acetate, propionate, butyrate, it helps prevent leaky gut. It helps prevent cancer. It helps prevent diabetes. It helps prevent heart disease. And the more fiber we're eating, the more the microbes produce these short chain fatty acids, which will help prevent disease. That this byproduct is one of the best things that we can do, that fiber is one of the best things we can eat, and fiber only comes from plants, remember? So unhealthy food feed unhealthy microbes. So on the flip side, when we're consuming a lot of fried foods, we're consuming a lot of meat and dairy, they produce other byproducts which inflame the body. And one of which, especially with meat and dairy, is called TMAO. And that byproduct will promote stroke, will promote heart disease, will promote cancer. So we want to avoid those foods and consume more fiber-rich foods to help prevent disease instead of promote disease. But that's not all. I mean, it's not just our short or long-term health. It's also our short-term health because our gut and our brain are incredibly connected. How we feel every day is a lot of what we're eating because the majority of serotonin, which is that feel-good hormone, right? 95% of that is housed in the gut. And it directly affects our mood, our sleep, our digestion. And so what we choose to think, how we're feeling, is all affected by how many fruits and vegetables and grains and nuts and seeds we are eating every day, how many plants, which is why we need to start counting plants and not calories or macros. However, what if you feel like, look, I get it. I understand it's important, but I don't have time. I don't have time to make lavish meals, these plant-based meals that are amazing. I don't have time to think of like just cooking more outside of my habits. I don't have time. I don't have energy. Things are easy. I like quick meals. Like I don't have energy to do it. Well, I'm about to show you that you don't need time and you don't need energy. If the only time you had was to open your fridge and grab some green beans and put them in your mouth, you have time. You have the time. It doesn't require much. You'd be surprised how easy it is, especially when you start small. It's about progress. It's not about perfection. So I'm about to show you not only how it's so easy and doesn't require a lot of time, but the byproduct is that you'll have more energy. So therefore, if you have more energy, you'll feel like you have even more time. Instead of feeling exhausted and fatigued and wanting to take a nap and rest during the day, you'll be able to produce more. So you honestly don't have the time to not make the time, but to eat more fruits and vegetables because of all of the benefits that you'll get. And in order to do this, number one, you have to shift your priorities. So for those of us who are religious, we know that spiritually, if you put, a higher being first in your life, like God or any other higher being you believe in, if you put it first, you're praying, you're meditating, you're doing those things first in your life, first thing when you wake up. And you see benefits throughout the rest of your day when you're putting your spiritual, foundation first. It's the same thing physically. If you're putting that physical foundation first in your life, then you are doing it first thing every day. And so how can you add plants first before every meal, before every snack? You can still eat however you're eating, still eat exactly how you ate before. Just shift by adding in, don't worry about taking away yet, add in those plants, add in a handful of fruits and vegetables, or simply eat your vegetables first. Eat the same amount that you've always been eating, just eat the veggies first. Eat veggies for the fiber, and then number 2, the protein, and then number 3, unsaturated fats, then number 4, starches from whole grains, and number 5, sugar. So this is called food sequencing, when we're just shifting the order of what we're eating. And it doesn't have to be like a huge amount, even if it's just a couple bites that you're first prioritizing those veggies. It makes a big difference. And if you're confused on what's a vegetable, what's a fruit, an easy rule of thumb is just to think if it's green, it's a vegetable. Even if it's technically a fruit, that's just one of like the easiest things to think. Okay. All right. So next is, why does eating in this sequence matter? Why does practicing food sequencing matter? So let's explain a little bit deeper why it matters. Number 1, have you ever done dishes? I have to do dishes a lot. I have 6 kids, so there's a lot of dishes all the time. And a lot of times they put their food in the sink and they leave a bunch of their food on the plate. And sometimes say there's just bread in the sink and I'm doing dishes and the bread kind of gets, soaks up the water pretty fast and goes down the drain pretty fast, no problem. But if they've left some vegetables on their plate, it kind of clogs up my drain and I have to turn on the disposal because it's clogged everything up. Well, it's very, very similar to our stomach. In fact, it practices the exact same thing. So when we consume food, it breaks down food and turns into glucose, and then glucose goes to our body. The problem is when we're eating foods that are really processed, or, think of like those breads, those things that easily absorb, then it easily goes through to our stomach, like it goes down that drain. And the problem is then it will surge through our blood and give us that big glucose spike. And we want to avoid that surge as much as possible. But when those vegetables come first, when the fiber or even protein or fat are consumed, what it does is it clogs that sink, right? Clogs it so you have to turn on the disposal almost. But instead of turning on the disposal, it just slows down your digestion process. It slows everything down. And in slowing it down, it will, make it so you don't have that big blood sugar spike. And when you don't have that big blood sugar spike, you don't have cravings afterwards. You have more energy throughout the day. You have less fatigue. It makes a really big difference, the order of how you eat. And this time frame can last anywhere from, immediately eating vegetables right after, or you eat vegetables first and then eat your dinner right after, or up to even 2 hours. If you're going to go to an event, you decide to eat vegetables first. And they found this benefit even with the exact same meal. If you give someone a sandwich, the exact same sandwich, but if you practice food sequencing first by eating the vegetables, then by eating the rest of the sandwich, it blunts that blood sugar spike instead of eating the sandwich as is. And so if we practice this food sequencing, we not only are going to prioritize vegetables, but when we prioritize vegetables, just like spiritually, everything else falls into place when you prioritize what's most important. In our body physically, when we prioritize what's most important, everything else falls in place. We can get rid of those blood sugar spikes. Therefore, we get rid of that 3 p.m. crash in the middle of the day. We have more energy because we're not crashing, and we have less cravings. This is the most amazing byproduct of all of this. It's amazing how your cravings decrease when you are putting vegetables first in your life. And I promise that even though at first it feels like you're adding more foods, like I've been recently adding cauliflower to my oatmeal, and it's technically more calories than I'm adding, but in general, it all evens out because I have less cravings later on. It keeps me full longer, right? And so I don't need a snack in between my meals. I can just eat my meals because I don't get as hungry as I used to eat, even though I was eating plant-based before. If I'm prioritizing those vegetables and making them first, it makes a big difference over, eating in any other way. And so, I hope this makes sense to you. Does this make sense to you? Are you following along, right? Like this, it's so simple. These are very, very simple steps. But I know a lot of people have this other, fear and question. It's like, look, I would like to, but there's no way I can get my family on board, or I would like to, but I am surrounded at work with coworkers that bring in crap all the time. What if the people around me don't want to eat like this and I'm consistently surrounded by foods that I don't want to eat? And guess what? That's totally fine, because the people around you don't have to eat like that, because change starts with you first. We all wish that we can make our kids and siblings and parents and spouses and everyone eat healthier. But truthfully, change starts with you first. Focus on what you can control. Your example makes more of a difference than anything else. And in fact, when I was training to be a Pilates instructor, at my training session, the instructor said, okay, follow me, what I'm going to do. And then she began to explain something with her mouth, but do something totally different, do a different exercise with her body. So she was explaining one exercise with her mouth, a different exercise with her body. And what did the class do? We all did everything that she did with her body because there's a reason why the saying is monkey see, monkey do, not monkey say, monkey do. It was so much easier to follow her example through her actions than through what she was trying to tell us to do. And so change starts with you. Before you say a word to anyone else in your life, you need to be the example you want to see in everyone else. And you need to start practicing self-care instead of, worrying about self-control. Just think first about feeding your body the right way instead of trying to control your body, to fit this certain mold or to do certain things or even to control those around you. So are you practicing self-care or are you practicing self-control? And remember that slow change is better than jumping all in. And I highly suggest for anyone deciding to eat more plants or eat a predominantly plant-based diet, not to jump in all the way right away. Your gut microbiome needs time to adjust. It doesn't have all those good microbes to be able to eat a ton of fiber from going from 0 to 90. And it's going to be a shock. Like going to the gym and working out. If you haven't worked out in a long time, you're going to be super sore. Same thing with your gut. You need to build up the strength to eat all that fiber. And just in general, it's easier to slowly add than it is to think about taking anything away. And research shows that for kids, especially, it takes 8 to 15 times for children to accept a new food as familiar. So just consistently make these small changes, just giving them experience. And I know I personally, used to not like mushrooms or tomatoes or other things. And then the more I was exposed to them, the more I have grown to not only like them, but to love them, because your taste buds do change. They do change. It only takes about 10 days to 2 weeks for them to change. Now, the final thing with this is that it's really important to choose to live in abundance and to drop the scarcity mindset. I don't know about you, but man, it is not fun to think about scarcity. Like, oh, I'll never eat my favorite food ever again. Do you want to think like that? No, of course not. We want to think like, you know what? I can do this. I can add more. You can easily add more. I know you can. So when you practice food sequencing and choose vegetables first, it does an amazing thing. It curbs your cravings like we talked about. And so even if you are surrounded with treats, even if in your work environment, everyone's brought in cookies and this and that, if you've been eating your vegetables first, you are not going to overindulge. You just won't. You won't feel like you need to. You don't have this insatiable desire to have these incredibly looking treats that are right in front of your face. If you feel satisfied internally, if you've put that foundation of vegetables first in your life. Okay, so let's just review what we talked about and how to feel better now and live longer later. Number 1, in order to do this, you have to count plants, right? Not calories, not macros. In order to have more energy and improve your long-term health, you need to count plants. Number 2, the question, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy to revamp my whole diet. If you have the time to reach through your fridge and grab carrots before dinner, you have the time for this. You have the time and energy. You can easily just start adding plants to your life. It doesn't require much. And then number 3, change starts with you. Be the change you want to see in your household. Be the change you want to see in your work environment. Your example is the perfect place to start. Focus on adding rather than taking away. So can I ask you a question? How many of you feel like this right now, right? That you're drinking from a hose and you try to catch everything I just said and you think you grasped the concepts that I was just teaching, like you think you've got it, but you're not quite sure and you're not quite sure if you can really do this. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I don't want you to feel like I just spit out all this information at you and now go off on your own. Try to do it on your own. I want to inspire you. I want to help you. I want you to know that it's possible, that it's so easy to just add vegetables into your diet and to feel the difference that it makes to decrease those cravings, to have more energy. And so months ago, because I love talking about this stuff, I love teaching it. And months ago, I spoke with my team about finding an affordable way to teach more people about how to ease into plant-based eating. And so we decided to create a new program. And if it's okay with you, I want to talk about that new program just for the next, 5 minutes. So you know what to do. I just told you everything what to do, but let me also show you how. Let me explain how our plant-based pathway program will help you get there, will help you make these small changes that we just talked about. So in our program, we will quickly, every day we'll have a different topic. So the first one is timeless nutrition and how we can see past dietary trends. And then after we go into detail with this topic in the Q&A, I give you a goal on something small to start working on. And then number 2, the next time we talk about how to ease into more plants, how to have more energy. And then I give you a goal on something to focus. Again, simple goals. Some of the goals we've already even talked about here, but it helps you take these small steps because each step builds upon each other. Then we talk about, after we've added everything in, then we talk about, well, okay, maybe we can limit dairy, how to limit dairy and meat and highly processed foods and why it's important. We go a little bit more detail into that. And then, how we nourish the gut and how we can prevent bloating and gas, because we all know when we eat more plants that tends to happen. So you want to know what to do so that you are not feeling those after effects, because there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And we teach the right way to do it. And you want to know, don't you? I'm sure you do. I'm sure your people you live with want to know too, right? And then the last thing is how to live in abundance, how to have that abundance mindset and not the scarcity mindset of, oh no, I'll never, ever, ever be able to eat this or that or that. And, no, it's just, I'm so excited about all the different foods that I get to experience that I haven't experienced before. Wouldn't you rather have that mindset? Doesn't that sound awesome? Doesn't that sound great? A much better place I'm coming from. And so when you invest in the PlantWise Pathway program, you will also get 4 incredible starter guides where we go through all the details, how to grocery shop, what to have in your pantry at all times, so that when you come back from a trip, you can make a meal and you can make a healthy meal, even from just pantry items, because you have all the basics in your pantry. We talk about, those 18 easy steps to ease into more plants. And we talk about finding your why, and really so that you can stay true and to stick with this new pattern of eating. And you will have access to each presentation recording for 1 week. So even if you can't make anything live, you'll have access to the recordings for 1 week after you purchase the program. We sell these as standalone workshops for $49 each. So just the workshop alone, not the guides, not anything else, just, being able to participate in a Zoom meeting alone for 1 day about one topic costs $49. And so you're getting all of this, and that's all included for free. And if you sign up today, we will give you a free week from our brand new meal plan. Our new summer meal plan is coming out in a couple of weeks, and you will get a sneak peek by getting the first week of the new 8-week summer meal plan. There's 5 lessons on how to ease into plants. This is everything that you get in the program. 4 of our best starter guides, 1 week of our new meal plan. And the value of all of this, this is not what I charge, but the value is $297. So if all this did was to help increase your plant consumption and therefore reduce your risk of chronic disease and therefore reduce any major health event in the future. Like my husband's stroke was not cheap. It costs a lot of money. Those ER bills are not cheap. And just think of all of the future medical costs that you could save if you make changes now, if you invest in this course now and make these simple changes. Would it be worth $297 to save medical costs later on? Yes, it totally would. And so when making this course, we had 2 options because I just want everyone to know. I want to prevent the type of things that happened to my husband and my dad. I want others to be able to have that choice before it's too late. And I want you to know those simple changes you can make to create vegetables a foundation in your life. And so I spoke with my team. We had the 2 options. We can, number 1, charge what the course is worth, which is $297. And we could help a few people that way. And that was because that's what it's worth, right? Or we could charge significantly less so that we could reach more people, that we could get this message out to more. So guess what we decided? We are only going to charge $37 so that we could help as many people as possible, so that we can walk you through, we can hold your hand to help you eat more plants. And so small changes do matter. These little things make a difference. And I want to show you a testimonial from someone that 2 months ago, she said, I found out my triglycerides were at a critically high level. I knew I needed to make changes, but was overwhelmed with where to start. Then I started implementing so many of the tips and tricks you share each week. Today, I got my most recent labs back and my triglycerides and cholesterol are now at normal levels. I had no idea I could so radically change my health in just 2 months. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And another one said, taking this course will likely change your health as well as other aspects of your life. It will help you avoid the pitfalls of diet fads and trends that are pervasive today and empower you with the truth about nutrition. So we promise that it will only add value to what you already know. I've already taught a lot of these principles. There's not going to be anything like brand spanking new, right? We're just going to go deeper into these details. And so, of course, you can take what I just learned and go with it. You totally can. But honestly, this is a screaming deal. Like, you can afford to invest $37 because just $37 is going to save you in all the supplements and caffeinated drinks that you won't need to buy anymore, because you won't be experiencing that 3 p.m. crash. So you don't need to be drinking all those caffeinated drinks. You also don't need to be worried about buying collagen supplements when you are eating the fruits and vegetables that will help produce collagen in your body. There's a lot of things that you won't need to buy if you just spend money and invest on this course. And because we want to reach as many people as possible, we are only charging $37. And so give it a try. Sign up today. And if you sign up today, here's your bonus. I'll actually give you unlimited access to those recordings in Kajabi. If you sign up today, you don't have to worry about watching them in a week. You will have unlimited access. And not only that, if I charge more in the future, you will still have access. You will have just paid $37. And if I eventually decide to charge $297 for this course, you still have access and you only had to invest $37. So right now you have two choices. You can do nothing. But the problem is that you've just watched this entire video because you know you need to do something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here until this point. You wouldn't have stayed with me this long. And if you do nothing, then nothing will change. But you are here because you know that something needs to change. You know deep inside. So option number 2 is to try it out. Just give it a shot. Just try it out, because when you pay for things, you start to pay attention. I used to give my course out for free to a select individuals. I used to have them apply. You get the course for free. And sometimes that was great. Those individuals participated. But most of the time, when people got it for free, they didn't participate. They didn't come. They didn't join. They didn't invest. And so it's amazing that when you pay for something, you pay attention. And that it's like you're betting on yourself. You're making this small little $37 bet on yourself that you are going to finish. You're going to pay attention and you're going to apply what you're learning. When you pay attention. And this is not about us making a lot of money. $37 is nothing, guys. We are like barely making it even. But because I wanted to do this because I wanted you to be here. I want you to be able to experience this change. This is not about us. This is about you. And this is about you having the opportunity without any excuses to be able to make significant changes to your health today. So, what are you going to do? I hope to see you in the course. Go ahead, sign up now, and I will see you. Thanks for coming, guys.